I want to acknowledge Maddie Rackley, who's on our Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission. Thank you for being here, Maddie, and thank you for all of the work you do in making these kind of programs possible. Andrew and I have been talking for a couple of years about doing programs that highlight the wonderful artists and creative people we have in the community. So we came up with this idea to have a program celebrating artists and icons that are West Hollywood based. And we've had some fantastic people, and we still have many fantastic people who live in the city, who work in the city, who are celebrated all over the world for their talent. And we wanted to create an opportunity for West Hollywood residents to come here in a more intimate setting and hear from them and hear about their experiences. And I think it's fitting that we're kicking it off with a longtime resident, somebody who is the original diva in West Hollywood. Everyone knows Frances, not only from her artistic work, but also because of her many years of serving people here in West Hollywood. If you're old enough, you had the opportunity to go to Hamburger Hamlet or to other restaurants in the past. I don't want to date her. But she, in addition to her fantastic artistic career and her career in dance and entertainment, she also was serving people in other ways. And we're so happy to have her here to celebrate and to kick off this first event of artists and icons in West Hollywood. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for your support of the community. And Andrew, thank you for everything you do to make art a reality here in the city of West Hollywood. Here's our guest of honor.
Hi, everybody.
This is exciting. This is another first.
We've both been doing this for such a long time, and nothing really makes us nervous until we saw those stairs when we came in. Right. Like, whoa.
With this knee.
So, first of all, thank you to Mayor Heilman, Andrew Campbell, the City of West Hollywood, and all of you for coming out to see the diva in living red color. It's really my great honor to call Frances my friend, and it's been an honor to be asked by her to moderate this conversation this evening. So we're going to talk about everything. This has really been a fun project for us, sort of like a trip down memory lane for her, and stories that I just really can't get over. So it'll be fun to share some of them with you. And she really has lived a truly extraordinary life, a life very well lived. So well lived that you cannot believe she's 120 years old. It's remarkable. So let's start. We're going to start at the beginning. And look at that. I mean, whoa. It's amazing you can walk. You know, incredible.
Now, yeah.
Frances Elizabeth Taylor Davis.
That is correct.
Let's talk about that name and what that meant when you went to Broadway.
Well, when I went to Broadway, when you join the union on Broadway, there can't be two of the same name in equity. And when I joined, there was already a Frances Taylor. So I had to change to my middle name, which is Elizabeth. Well, I was Elizabeth Taylor on Broadway. And as a matter of fact, the Elizabeth out here in SAG, the actress, had she come to Broadway after me, she would have had to change, while I was there, she would have had to change her name.
Yep.
She, that's the way that
So,
went.
you know, you often tell me that your story is, in a lot of ways, a life of first. So that was
Exactly.
definitely a first.
That was a
Being
first.
here tonight, launching this program is a first.
First.
Tell me about some of your other firsts.
Well, I was the first black ballerina to perform with the Paris Opera Ballet. I had been with Katherine Dunham, and I think it was with her company that I joined in Paris. They found out that she had a ballerina in the company, and photographers were all over the place, you know, taking pictures of me and all. And at a moment, there was an article that the Dunham Company was a little jealous because I was hogging the footlights. I said, what, hogging? I was just doing my performance, honey, if that's what you call hogging. But they got over that. And then I was asked to join the Paris Opera Ballet for a special performance. And to me, that was one of the highlights of my career, because in this country, they weren't ready for a black ballerina in a major ballet company. I mean, they now have Mitzi Copeland in American Ballet Theater, but I was just so grateful that I had that opportunity. And I did a special performance, and his name was Max Bonzini, at the Théâtre des Champs-Élysées. And the next day in the papers, they called me the Leslie Caron de la Tropics. Had to put a little color there. But it didn't matter. I mean, the fact that I had performed with them was just one of the greatest opportunities in my life.
The picture that the audience is looking at is you on point at age 10.
At age 10,
Yep.
I started classical ballet at the age of 8. We had a teacher who came to our building, the Rosenwall, and her name was Mildred Hessler, and she would drive in from Ravinia, Illinois, to teach these little girls. We were called colored then. I never understood that, but I always said I was a ballerina, not colored, just ballerina. But anyway, she drove in and she taught our classes, and it was thrilling to me because this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a classical ballerina. And I remember taking some of us downtown to see a performance of the Russian ballet company, Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo. And I saw a performance of Alexandra Danilova doing Swan Lake, and also Maria Tallchief doing the Nutcracker Suite, Sugar Plum Fairy. Well, 14 years old, I said, I've got to do that at some point.
And so as you see on the next picture, she did just that at 16 years old. She had quite a bit going on, but was the Swan Queen in Swan Lake, the Sugar Plum Fairy in the Nutcracker.
Right.
And you also became a debutante that year.
It's that all that happened at 16.
Yeah, incredible.
Absolutely. And then at 16, my teacher thought I should progress a little bit more, and she set up an audition for me downtown Chicago at the Edna McRae School of Dance. There was also a theater there where Katherine Dunham was performing. She said to me, Frances, I think you should see her performance, and I think you should audition for Katherine. Well, I saw the performance, and I thought, oh, wow, well, these drums and hip movements and all that, a little much for a little ballerina to watch. But anyway, it was great. And I auditioned for her company. They were all in the audience watching. And after, I auditioned on point. And she came to me after and said, what do you want to do, little Frances? I said, I want to dance. So she said, I'm going to give you a scholarship to my school, and I want you to learn my technique, and then later join my company. I was too young at that time, but when I was 18, I was first year of junior high, and I said to my dad, isn't that for me, Dad? Please take me to New York. My dad drove me to New York, set me up with a family that he knew, and actually he was with me the first day that I went to class, watched class, and he looked at me and he said, "Do you think you're going to be able to do that? I mean, with all these drums and hip movements," because I didn't. And you have to understand, when I was growing up, being the debutante and all that, there was no talk about sex, ever. We didn't know anything. When I left home, my mother said to me, "Don't do anything until you get married." I had no idea what she meant.
Wow.
But traveling all over Europe and South America, I mean, I was a hit.
You still are.
But I was too into my craft. I mean, I was charmed by the fact that people just loved.
The photo that's up now is a picture of your father on the right in Cuba.
In Cuba, yes.
Yeah, and you speak of him so often, and he clearly had such a incredible influence on your life.
Yes, he did. I mean, the fact that he would expose us to so much in the world, and he would go on these vacations. He would be in Cuba, and as a matter of fact, in the square of Cuba, there is a statue, Maceo, but it's pronounced Maceo. My father's name was Maceo Taylor, and this gentleman, Maceo, was a Cuban liberator, as a matter of fact. But I mean, just taking me all over, you know, at that young age, seeing and watching and hearing, was a great influence, and it made me very confident. I was never afraid. I mean, so he was the best.
This is another picture of you as a really beautiful ballerina, and it makes me think about the way you really did pave the way for Misty, and you did have the opportunity to meet her at the Wallace.
Yes, I did. That picture was taken, I had just finished, that was the courtesy after I had finished performing the Swan Lake Ballet, the Swan Queen. Yes, Mitzi, a couple of years ago, we met. She invited me to a performance of her at the Annenberg Theater. She was doing a performance with Debbie Allen. And I mean, we met, we hugged, because she knew what I had been through. And at that time, there was no way to be with an American ballet company. I remember the name Janet Collins. I'd heard this later, that she had auditioned for Ballet Russe in Monte Carlo, and they said that she would have to paint her face white if she wanted to be in the company. And she said, no. And what happened, she did later, I think, join Metropolitan Ballet. Mm-hmm. But as I said, during that time, and I was just so happy to see we have a Mitzi, and I guess she did Swan Lake at 32. I did it at 16.
Wow.
But it's okay. At least she did.
It is what it is.
Yes.
This is a photo of your dance partner, Walter Nix, and you at the Benny Goodman Orchestra in London. And the opening number was Sing, Sing, Sing.
Yes. As a matter of fact, when I got my scholarship to the school, Walter Nix was my partner, was my teacher. And then later we became partners. And we were asked to join Benny Goodman. Before that, we were asked to open in a place called Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, McKeesport, Pennsylvania.
McKeesport.
Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Anyway, and it was an opening for Harry Belafonte at that time.
Ah.
But,
And you became very good friends with all the Belafontes.
oh yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. And
This is what you referred to earlier when the Paris press labeled you the Leslie Caron of the tropics, and then you would later tour with Dunham all throughout Europe and South
Europe
America.
and South America.
Yep.
Yeah, that was actually, they called me Europe's dancing doll. I thought, well, that's okay.
Okay. This is a picture, as many of you probably know, living here in West Hollywood, of the famous Ciro's, and you performed at Ciro's with Katherine Dunham.
Katherine Dunham.
And this is where you met Mr. Miles Davis.
That's correct. We were a hit. I mean, everybody came to Cyril's. I mean, it was, the Sinatras, I mean, Dean Martin, I mean, you name it, they were all there, but we were a hit. And George Slaughter was the manager. And he sort of kept his eye on me because there were too many people who were smitten. I mean, there was, oh, God. But he became my, like my godfather, I guess you'd say.
Protector.
Protector, yeah. But a gentleman by the name of Max Roach, who was Miles's drummer, came to see the show, and he went back and he told Miles, man, there's a little girl in that Katherine Dunham who can dance her ass off. Well, Miles came out to see the show, and of course he was smitten like everybody else. But I remember he writing his telephone number down. We were staying in a hotel next door to Cyril's. But I went out with him a couple of times. I went out with Tom Hormel, who was also in the audience a lot, Hugh O'Brien, Roy Calhoun wanted to take me to Vegas. And
never a good idea.
No. George Slaughter said, no.
Yeah.
I wouldn't anyway, because I was too, again, into my craft.
Yeah, it's good.
So, yeah.
This is, you obviously worked with Sammy Davis Jr. on Broadway, but before that you did a pilot for television called 3 for the Show.
Right.
And it was too soon, you said.
Yeah. I had met Sammy while I was at Cyril's, and something came up. He wanted me to be his romantic lead in a pilot film called 3 for the Show. And we worked on it. Those are the pictures. But as I said, at that time, it was too soon for a black sitcom. So we.
So Frances and I speak every evening, usually during our happy hour.
Yes.
And it's it's usually while we're watching the news, and I'll call her. She calls me brother dear. I call her sister dear.
Right.
And I'll call her and say, sister dear, what about this president? What about this? What about that? And she always quotes Sammy Davis Jr.
would say, only the shadow know.
And it's really, in our day today,
Yeah.
really true.
True.
So this next slide is an incredible picture. This is the original West Side Story, which is celebrating its 60th anniversary.
They came into LA to interview some of the members who still live out here.
Right. So this picture is
At a
you
rehearsal.
in the middle,
Me in the middle.
Leonard Bernstein,
Nine,
Stephen Sondheim, Carol Lawrence, Chita
Lawrence,
Rivera.
and Chita Rivera.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty amazing. But before West Side Story, you did Carmen Jones, Mr. Wonderful, and Shinbone Alley.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty amazing career on Broadway. And who ended it?
Well, second time around, on my way to rehearsal for Mr. Wonderful, I see Miles. He sees me, and he says, now that I've found you, I'll never let you go. Well, I thought, okay, I'm staying in a hotel. I'll join you. So I did start, I would say, living with him. And we became an item, but I still continued to do the Broadway shows. But when it came to Mr. Wonderful, I mean, he thought I was great. He knew about my craft. He knew what I'd done. He came to the theater one night in his Ferrari, and he picked me up, and the words out of his mouth stopped me. I froze. He said to me, a woman should be with her man. I want you out of West Side Story. I couldn't even speak. But what happened, I gave in, and I left West Side Story. And I'll never forget, everybody's saying you're crazy. Opening night, I received the gypsy robe, and I mean, it was an honor to be in West Side Story. I mean, it was a hit. But anyway, I'll never forget, I made the decision to leave, and we were at a performance of Lena Horne at the Copacabana, and Jerome Robbins came over to me and said, okay, Miles, you don't want her in the Broadway show anymore. Can she at least do the movie? And I'm thinking, maybe he'll say yes. But he didn't give an answer. When we got home, he said, is that MF kidding? Does he think I'm gonna let you do the movie? So that was the end of that. At one point, he got a call from Sammy for me to be in Golden Boy, the ingenue. We happened to be, he had a gig in Philadelphia. And I did go to a rehearsal, thinking maybe I might be able to be in that. However, the next morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, we were on the Philadelphia Turnpike going back to New York. So I gave up. I wasn't going to be performing anymore except in the kitchen.
When we were doing this research and came across this photo, I called you Monday night, I think.
Yeah.
I said, Sister dear, no one I would know would be married in Toledo, Ohio. How in the world did that come to be?
Well,
Certainly the Diva. Toledo, Ohio. I had to read it 3 times.
I don't know. Well, the thing is, we'd been in Chicago a couple of times and not being married. Now, I was a debutante, and I was brought up. I mean, when I left Chicago, some of my father's friends said, you gonna let her go to New York? Something could happen to her there. And my father said, something could happen to her here. But while I was with Miles a couple of times in Chicago, not being married, one of those times, he said to Miles, do not come back here without being married to my daughter. So we're in Detroit, and we drove to Toledo and got the marriage license and came back, and that was the picture.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is you on a cruise ship. The reason I love this photo is the white woman behind looking at you.
I know.
Is such a look. What was it like traveling in that day and age with someone as celebrated as Miles? You know, we have so much paparazzi now. Was it like that? There are so many photos of you.
I know.
Are there any experiences that really kind of stand out to you?
Not really. I mean, I saw these pictures much later. I didn't even know they'd been taken. Because I did travel with Miles. I mean, we were in the south of France. We were in Sweden. We were in Berlin. I remember staying on the Kurfürstendamm. I mean, we were all over. And the fact that I had been to one of these places before Miles,
Right.
so I was comfortable in
Right,
the way
right.
we traveled. Yeah.
Right. This is a great photo of you. I mean, look at those legs. This, I think, is about the time. I love the story of going up to Carmel. Miles was performing.
Right.
And why don't you tell the story about Richard Burton?
Yeah, he was doing a concert.
Sandpiper.
Yeah. And in Big Sur, Monterey Jazz Festival. And this particular afternoon, we had lunch at, I think the name of the restaurant. And while there, Richard Burton came in. And he was fascinated with us, or Miles, and whatever, but he joined the table, and he was a great storyteller. So I thought, let me tell him the story about me being Elizabeth Taylor on Broadway. So he went, oh my God, we've got to go on the set. You've got to meet Elizabeth. What are you? She was doing a movie called The Sandpiper. So we go on the set. So it's Richard, me and Miles, and he looks up at Elizabeth. She was gorgeous with these violet eyes. And he says to her, "Darling, I want you to meet the chocolate Liz." He did. Anyway, she didn't respond.
No.
No.
This is a
No.
great picture of you on KLM Airlines going somewhere, obviously,
Probably
in Europe.
Sweden. Or
This is in the south of France
In the
with,
south
with
of
Miles.
Yeah.
How much of the marriage was happy?
Well, at the beginning, I mean, when I got over the shock of not being able to perform anymore, I went into the marriage, loving him. I knew I would be performing in my own way because I didn't know how to cook. I mean, I became the stepmother of his children. And then, of course, when we started traveling together, it was lovely. It was fun. We enjoyed each other, his company and all that. But somehow, Miles was always jealous, and unfortunately, the combination of jealousy and cocaine started some terrible things that happened. But
You were together for 8 years, and you always say...
I was 9 years.
9 years, right.
I always say I rehearsed for 4, I was married for 5, I count them all.
I know that feeling well, too.
Yeah.
This is a great photo. I mean, scary photo when I first saw it, but
Yes.
I think it really speaks to the times that we were living in then. Miles was beaten by the police for escorting a white lady.
He was at Birdland, and
Yeah.
he escorted a white lady to her taxi, and he was beaten because he was a black man and touching a white lady.
Isn't it interesting that so long ago, maybe not much has changed
Not
with
much
what
has
we
changed,
see?
right?
It's going on today. I thought it was interesting.
But I mean, he was really big, and I wasn't there when it happened, but I was called to the, I think it was the 57th Street precinct, and I went down and helped him get out. I mean, that was a scary situation.
Very,
Yeah.
yeah.
And also, when he had his Ferrari flown out here, one time we stayed at the Chateau Marmont, and we would drive up in Beverly Hills, and we were always stopped because what is this black man doing in a Ferrari?
Ferrari, yeah.
We were stopped. I mean, that's the way it was then.
You spent quite a bit of time at the chateau, and as I recall, you lived in a suite across from Geraldine Page
and Rip Torn. Yeah,
yeah.
and we would share dinners.
Yeah. It's great. This is one of the 4 record covers that you were on. Someday My Prince Will Come, which I'm sure many people in my audience recognize. In the movie Miles Ahead, you were really portrayed as his muse. How do you think you influenced him musically?
What?
How do you think you influenced him musically?
Well, I think because of my travel. I mean, and the different music from the different countries. I remember I fell in love with, we were in Barcelona, Spain. I fell in love with flamenco music and dance. We used to go to what was called Avenida Ramblas, where they had boîtes. They called them, instead of clubs, or boîtes. And I just was fascinated. With Miles, there was a company called Roberto Iglesias that came to New York. And I thought, Miles, I would really like for you to hear and see this company. He didn't want to really go, but finally he agreed. And when we left that theater, we walked to the Colony Record Shop, and he brought every flamenco album. And the next day he called Gil Evans, and he said, I want to do this album. And he called it Sketches of Spain, and it's one of his classic. That was because of me.
It's really interesting.
That's right.
So we all know that the marriage ended.
Right.
Do you want to talk about how you left and coming here?
Well, that picture was taken, I think, about a few weeks before I left the second time. And yeah, that was hard. But what happened was I had been beaten by Miles, and I couldn't take it anymore. And so I had a friend out here, Nancy Wilson, and her husband, Kenny Dennis. And I ran. I came out to California. I stayed with her in Baldwin Hills. And then when I was comfortable in not knowing that he was going to come and get me, I got myself together and I started teaching classes. As a matter of fact, at the Coronet Theater. And then I started doing television specials. I did with Harry Belafonte and Petula Clark. Then I did a couple of movies. I did Blake Edwards movies, Waterhole Number 3 with James Coburn, and The Party with Peter Sellers. And it's interesting, when I finished Waterhole Number 3, Blake asked me to have dinner with him. He was not married to Julie Andrews at the time. He lived up at Sunset Plaza because he wanted to talk to me about another project. And so I had dinner with him, and it was about The Party. He said, "You'll be playing the part of a maid." I said, "Well, that's okay. Carol Burnett, a lot of people play maids." So,
Why not?
so, but he dressed me in this cute little French maid costume. I opened the movie with legs.
Legs for days.
And it's very interesting. Waterhole Number 3, I must have been pretty good for him to say, "I want you for this next movie." Not a line. It was all movement. And the same thing with The Party. Yeah.
And this is you with Mr. Garner, and you taught them dance, right?
I gave private dance classes
Yeah.
to Lois, yeah. And that's Tom Poston there, who's married to Suzanne Plachette. We were in the same Broadway show, Shinbone Alley with Eartha Kitt.
Right. You were also in the 1968 comeback special with Elvis.
With Elvis.
Yeah.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
As a matter of fact, while I was at this time I was at the Hamlet, and this lady came in, she said, "Did you know you're in Graceland, the book Graceland?" I said, "No, I didn't." So I did. I got Graceland book, and it shows all of the rooms in Graceland, in the kitchen, the living room. So, and in the television room, I was told that he only had 7 albums that he loved. Now, Miles has 125 albums, right? But I'm thinking that when we worked together in the 68 comeback, we would talk, and so he remembered. So the cover, "Someday My Prince Will Come," is one of the 7
Wow.
in the television room. Yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah.
You also really toured the world with your very close friend Connie Stevens. Like,
I've been, many places with Connie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everywhere, yeah.
absolutely. I worked with Connie. I was her lead dancer and backup singer. We did Las Vegas, Tahoe, Reno. We also performed in New York at the Plaza. I mean, we did a lot.
so now we come to the restaurants. And the resturants where you became at Roy's originally.
Roy's.
This is a picture of Le Dome, which is one of the places that you were a hostess at. Really is where you became the diva.
Right. I guess when the dancing days were over, I went into the restaurant business, And yes, it was Roy's first, and then it was the Dome, and then it was Cafe Morpheus where they had live jazz, and then I was asked to come over to Chasen's, and then went back to the Hamlet. I was at the Hamlet in between that.
Yep. And I loved the way you described what it was like to be the hostess, about how you thought it was so much like performing.
Yeah, my feeling was when the door opens, the curtain goes up, and I'm going to be performing and make you happy. Yeah. And
you did.
And I did. And it's so funny. During that time, when I came out here, there was a gentleman who invited me out, and his name was Marlon Brando. And we went to, well, what happened was it was seen on Channel 7 News that Marlon Brando was seen with the dark-haired beauty Frances Davis, ex-Mrs. Miles Davis, at the Factory. Remember the Factory? I was there with Marlon. Okay.
So this is obviously a picture of the Hamlet, which we miss every single day.
Yeah. But the Hamlet on Sunset was quite amazing because, I mean, it already was so many celebrities who came there.
Speaking of celebrities, local celebrities, this is the fabulous Allison Martino of Vintage LA, who we love, and I encourage all of you to follow her on all of her social handles because it's an incredible website. And this is Allison and Frances together at the Hamlet on Sunset. Before we get to this, I think it's fitting to pay tribute to the city of West Hollywood, where we both live.
Right.
And it was funny, when I was preparing to do this, I really like the Proust questionnaire, which some of you may know is in the back of every Vanity Fair when they interview celebrities and they ask them these kind of questions that are interesting. And one of the questions in the Proust is, what city would you most like to live in? And when I read it, I laughed because the other night, Frances and I were coming out of Cafe de 12 from having dinner, and we're walking hand in hand back to the car, and this guy's passing us, and he said, "You're pretty." And of course, we both on cue said, "Thanks." And I turned to Frances and I said, "There is nowhere else in the world that we could possibly live right here. I think we would be out of sorts." So.
Oh God, that's so true.
So this is Miles Ahead. So you were co-executive producer of
Yes.
Miles Ahead. This is you and Don Cheadle at the premiere?
At the premiere, yes. And actually, I don't know did you see the movie?
Yes.
Oh, you did. But as you know, it is fantasized and true.
Right. Yep.
And of course, all my friends said, "There's nobody who can play Frances." I mean, come on. But I mean, she was lovely.
And this is who you're referring to. This is Emiazzi
Emiazzi.
Corignaldi.
Yes, Corignaldi.
Yeah.
But I mean, there were certain scenes like I wish they had done I wish they could have done something with me performing in West Side. But the problem is that you can't use the music; you have to pay for it.
Right.
And it was very difficult. This movie had been in progress for many a year with many different producers, and the fact being that they couldn't get the money.
Right.
And the final analysis, what happened with the Miles Davis estate when they took over, it became, what do they call it, when they get the money through crowdfunding.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I think that also Mr. Cheadle put up some of his own money.
Yep.
Yeah. Because I first started out with, oh my God, I'm trying to think, producers, and then there was Columbia Pictures.
Very long time.
Yeah,
in the
long
making.
time,
Very,
yeah.
very long time.
Yeah.
Different iterations, different people attached. This is a recent great photo and a funny story behind it. So I run Beautycon festivals, and Frances came to our Los Angeles festival this August, and Chrissy Teigen was programmed on our main stage, and we were thrilled that Christy brought her husband, John Legend. And so little Frances says to Tripp, as I'm running around with a walkie-talkie and pretty much going insane, I would really, really like to meet John Legend. And I said, that's nice, it's not gonna happen. The next thing I get, a text on my phone with this picture.
And I say, what was the title of the picture?
The Diva and the Legend.
Legend. And someone said, well, who's who?
So Frances obviously has a lot going on, and this sort of concludes, before we turn it over to questions. You're writing a memoir with
Right.
Mr. Stephen Proget that you're working on. I think the audience would like to know what your life motto is. What's the thing that keeps you going at this thing called life?
This thing called life, I can keep on trucking. I can walk, I can talk, because a lot of my friends are in trouble with different ailments and what have you. And, you know, the fact that I can still really communicate and be able to take care of myself, I mean, that's very important
Right.
at this age. As a matter of fact, I look back and I say, I started at 8, and now I'm 88. Okay?
So I will just close by sharing something personal. Frances and I have become such close friends, and I draw so much inspiration and positivity out of this lady every day. She's never down, she's never negative, and I think a lot of people in West Hollywood feel this way. You're just really a source of inspiration and resilience for all of us with your life. So we really
I do feel that way because no matter what, see, I never drove, right? And when I was going to work at the Hamlet, I would wait for the bus, and sometimes cars would come by and say, Diva, you need a ride? I mean, I'd get in the car,
That's how
I'd
we
say, well,
met.
do you know who that is? I said, no, I don't. But they said Diva, so I just got in the car. And to this day, I mean, I walk down the side of my street, La Cienega side, and I'm walking, and I hear people say, Diva, you need a ride? You need a ride? I mean, it's ongoing.
Yeah, the other day it was like 100 degrees, and I said, don't go down the hill. Don't go down the hill. So she goes down the hill, and then I get a phone call, and she said, you're just not going to believe what happened. And I'm like, you got overheated coming up the hill with your stuff. And she said, I was sitting down waiting, and who turns up but your husband, Stephen, who pulls over and says, hey, Diva, you need a lift up the hill.
Yeah.
And perhaps saved your life that day. So
Yeah, but
that's great. It
it's
happens all the time.
All the time, but it's
Yeah.
wonderful living in West Hollywood. Everybody's so loving and wonderful, and I'm very appreciative of all of this. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, we'll turn it over to questions from the audience. Nothing's off limits. As you can tell, we're very candid. He'll bring you a mic.
So, yes. Hi, so growing up, you did such amazing things, especially starting at 8.
Such as what?
Starting at age 8,
Yes.
doing what you did. You obviously, you had friends that did something differently, that didn't do things as extravagantly as you did in life. How was it like talking to them after, you've done these amazing things and they necessarily don't know what life was like?
Well, sometimes after the fact, you get the jealousy thing going. I was friends with Eartha Kitt, and I remember she was performing here in the city, and for some reason, while she was singing, she was drinking champagne. And we went up to her suite, and at some point, she said something to a friend of mine that wasn't nice. And then she said to me, yeah, I was with Miles, and she said, whatever. And so we decided it was time to go. and walking towards the elevator, I didn't hear her coming. And she grabbed me and decked me to the floor.
Eartha.
Eartha. But you know, the jealousies in some people do come out. I mean, like what happened with the company when they made that statement that the Katherine Dunham company was jealous of me because, no. But I survived the jealousy because I just think about what I've done, and I'm very proud of what I've done, and I don't think about the negative.
Right. It's a great attitude.
Another question.
Hi, my name is Reason, and so the Boplicity is on the Miles Davis's Birth of the Cool album. That is my favorite song of by Miles Davis.
Which song?
Boplicity.
What is it?
Bob Subsidy.
Oh,
How do you pronounce Boplicity?
I don't even know it.
From the Birth of the Cool.
I gotta tell you that when I first met Miles, I knew nothing about his music.
Oh.
No. I did not know.
And 125 albums, it's hard to commit to memory.
Yeah,
too.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm touring all over the world, but I didn't know about his music. And not until I was with him and he was doing a film in Paris with Jean Moreau, and he did the music for it, and he left the acetate with me, and that's when I started, oh wow, his sound was so magnificent. That's when I named. So I didn't know about all of the albums then, no. Thank you. Okay.
Hi. Thank
Hi.
you. Hello. I mean, I have so many questions. Please let me buy you a drink at one point and for Tripp. But I won't
I'm
ask
ready,
now.
I am ready.
We were
I
ready.
have so
we were ready
many,
at 5
many,
o'clock.
many questions. Tripp will confirm. You mentioned Eartha decking you, which is terrible. I hope you decked her back.
But I did get
Got a little one in
Yeah,
there.
I got a little one.
Okay. What about the other wives or girlfriends during the time that you were married to Miles? Did you have a camaraderie? Did you become friends? I know you were he kept you close, but were you able to forge any relationships with any of the other women during that time?
Oh, well, yes, I was very friendly with Julie Belafonte. Julie Belafonte was in the Katherine Dunham company before I was. And there were 4 of us who became very close. We called ourselves the Sadies. We slept together, ate together. I mean, it was wonderful. So we remained friends. And then I also was friends with Diane Carroll and Cheetah Rivera. I mean, so we had a few, but it was friendly. There were no problems with that group. But
In the back.
Actually, not so much a question, just a statement. First off, I also worked with Eartha Kitt in the early 80s. We can share stories.
oh, okay.
But I worked with you in the 90s, and you have been in my mind all this time. So when I saw that you were talking tonight, I had to be here. I was the bartender from the Hamburger Hamlet.
Oh, really?
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
I can't see you, but I will.
Well, I'll come up and we'll hug. We were close. We lived around the corner from each other, also in West Hollywood. And you've been on my mind, and I'm just so happy to see you again.
That's great.
Okay, I can't wait.
I don't need a microphone. In hindsight, with the decision to go with Miles and to leave your career behind, in hindsight, what was it that drove you to make that decision? Because you had an amazing career and many more years to go.
I know.
Do you regret it? And what was it the glamour of his life? What was it that made you say, I'm going to go?
No, my life was more glamorous than his. No. I think what happens when you fall in love, the whole world's delicious. I don't know what happened, and all I can say is when you think about how your parents, my mother didn't have a career. It was taking care of the children. She was in love with me. Yeah. And I guess I felt the need to have a man in my life. And he was the one, and I gave it up. Of course it hurt me. But this was the next step in my life, to be married to someone like Miles Davis.
That's a great question.
Yeah. I don't know. And as I went through this relationship, I kept saying to myself, why? At some point when the abuse became too much. And then I would turn it around and say, this too shall pass. I was brought up in Christian Science with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy, and everything was love. And I think that's my reason for
After you
staying.
flee, when was the next time you ran into him?
When,
The next time you bumped into Miles after having left for good.
well,
Ever?
that,
Ever?
well, the next time was out here, and he was performing at Shelley's Manhole, and one of his musicians came to me and said, I think you shouldn't continue to be afraid of him, and let me take you to see him and hear his performance. So I did go, and I felt comfortable that time. And then I was invited, he was having a showing of his paintings in Beverly Hills, and I was invited there. I was okay with it, and I'll never forget, the person who took me actually was Cannonball Adderley, who took me to see Miles at Shelley's. But I was with people, and when I got there, his paintings were all over, and he took my hand, and he pointed up to this picture, and he said, that's your ass, in the picture. I mean, when you see his paintings, I'm expressed through him, you know, with the rhythm and the stuff, because, as I said, I couldn't really have friends, I couldn't dance, but he taught me how to cook, so I became a shown how to cook. I mean, I remember having a big party for Senator Kennedy, and I did the whole thing, soul food, and you know, it was unbelievable. So, as I say, the love that I had for him, I still have. I don't, how do I put it? I forgive, but I don't forget.
Great.
We have time for one more. If anybody's has a, oh, looks like you're ready to ask something.
I just want to say I've known you for a long time, and I've always thought we were the same age, but I'm only 77, so you look wonderful.
Thank you.
And we have one more in the blue sweater.
Francis, since we're here in West Hollywood and we sort of have a large gay audience, you and I have known each other through Tripp, obviously, who is my husband. So you've told me such fascinating stories about growing up as an African American at that time, and how you were the privilege of your family, that it really wasn't an issue, you know, growing up. So So what I'd like to relate to is, since you live in West Hollywood, what was your first concept? Do you remember the first gay person you ever met, and what your response was to that, and your knowledge of it, and how long ago that was? I'd be fascinated to know, because I don't imagine you grew up around a lot of gay people, and maybe.
Well, yeah, they weren't called gay then; they were called sissies. Yeah, that's true. But you have to understand, when I joined the Katherine Dunham company, all the guys were gay. So we became the best of friends. I mean, my best friends are gay. And so when I came out here, it was just the norm. You know, so I just don't know how else to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've always been a part. And it's so fat. My mother had a gay friend, but as I said, they called them sissies at that time. But, I mean, and she loved him. I mean, so I had no fears, nothing about being a part of the gay world, because that was part of show business.
Last year we had the opportunity, thanks again to Mayor Heilman, to be in the annual Gay Pride Parade. And you managed to go through the parade on the back of a BMW. I don't know how you did it.
With a rainbow feather boa. Right.
And it was really, for me, being in the front of the car, it was amazing to see how the city responds to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and on the side of the car, it did say, what did it
West
say?
Hollywood's original Diva. Yeah.
And there I am, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if I'll be able to get up.
I don't.
We have just one more little thing, and unfortunately, Mayor Heilman had to head off to another appointment.
Oh, right. That's, yeah.
However, we wanted to present on behalf of the city, from the City Council, a proclamation to Frances Taylor Davis.
Okay.
Whereas schooled at Chicago's finest, Frances Taylor began ballet at age 8. At the age of 16, she was granted a scholarship to study Dunham technique in New York with the famed Katherine Dunham. It wasn't until 2 years later, in 1948, at the age of 18, she trained with Katherine Dunham in New York and toured extensively with the professional company to Europe and South America, and on and on and on about all of your wonderful achievements. And so whereas Frances Taylor Davis continues to educate and inspire others with her story of survival and renewal, now therefore be it resolved that the City of West Hollywood City Council hereby admires the talent and tremendous work of Frances Taylor Davis, recognizes her outstanding contribution to arts, and extends the best wishes for her future endeavors.
Oh, thank you.
You have a tissue? Standing ovation.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, wow, this has been unbelievable. Thank you all for coming. I got to take a little breath. I think I need a martini.